rolling dice. You never know if it could change your life. Take a chance, you're neither wrong or right. You never
Done grading forever until the next grading starts again.
Done grading forever for now.
Well, the great thing about like grading stuff is that you sort of, when you have a big stack of grading, the beautiful thing is you experience a kind of intellectual or academic ego death. It's like being in an isolation chamber. You forget who you are. You forget how to write. You forget how to spell. You forget, basic usage in English after just reading, 500 pages of undergraduate work.
Yeah,
So
it really, it's great. It's the best part of being in academia by far. And so rewarding. Your students really value your comments and the work that you put into grading their papers, and they never have complaints. They never come to you and say, hey, I need a better grade so that I can stay on the football team, and you never have to say, no, that's not how this works. It's great. I love it. Love grading.
Except it is how it works in like every school with a good football team. I guess the question is your football team good?
When I was grading, it was not good enough to justify changing grades.
Right.
I received.
Let me check. Is this a D1 team?
Yeah.
Okay.
I received extremely minimal pressure to adjust grades for athletes, but I did receive some pressure. Yeah. If you have a good team, good luck giving your football players anything less than a C.
I can't wait until the day, and this is the future that I want, Rob, when I'm asked to adjust a grade for a member of the college's League of Legends team. That's all I want.
It's coming, Matt. It's coming.
Hey, so Rob, I was thinking about this. What is your probably most unpopular D&D opinion? What is the thing that will lose us the most subscribers?
Oh, this is a good question. I feel like I actually probably have a lot of unpopular D&D opinions.
You're an unpopular guy.
I'm an unpopular guy. I have opinions, and some of them are very bad. So I'll tell you what. This is an opinion that I think is actually pretty unpopular in the common crowd. I believe that the martial and caster divide does exist, and that martials get the short end of the stick, and that future designers of D&D should work a lot harder to make people who fight with swords feel less like sidekicks to their wizards. It's better than it has ever been in 5th edition, but in terms of power tiers, which I don't really care about but do believe in, it definitely matters and makes a difference. This is something that I try to keep on the down low because everybody has kind of moved on from the 3.5, quadratic
People don't
wizard.
Care anymore.
People don't care anymore, but it is a opinion that I continue to hold and still feel bitter about. Matt, what's your worst D&D opinion?
I don't know if I have any unpopular ones. I think when I put them out there, they become popular. It's sort of a catch-22. That's that's a literary reference.
I actually have another one, which is going to segue into our next topic. But this is a real hot take, and I expect to get some letters about it. But I do not think that players should inherently be allowed to play elves. I think they should earn that right. I don't think that they should just be able to.
Elves should be premium content. Like you need a level 20 character before you can unlock an elf.
I'm sorry, elves are DLC for Dungeons and Dragons. You have all lost elf privileges. Is I guess what I'm saying. Nobody can be trusted.
But they're so sexy, Rob.
And graceful and good at combat and spellcasting and everything else.
No, my unpopular opinion is that pretty much every game should probably have firearms, especially if you have of some kind. They basically, for every technology that you have in D&D, firearms should be one of them. And
is that an unpopular opinion?
Yeah, I think so. I think most people prefer games without firearms.
Oh, I also hold that opinion. I also think I don't know if this is popular or unpopular. I also think that low magic games are boring and bad. I think that
it's unpopular, but you've told us before.
Well, I know that it's unpopular among a vocal crowd. I don't know if it's generally unpopular.
Yeah. It's unpopular. It's unpopular among people who have played low magic games. It's very popular among people who are thinking about it.
Gotcha. I know that's actually on our list. We should do an episode about firearms because I agree strongly. And you and I think,
planting
both have
some seeds.
Thoughts about technology and how it fits into D&D. But yeah, so speaking of elves.
Hello,
Matt,
it's Dungeon Master of None. I'm Dungeon Master Elf.
And I'm Dungeon Master Elf Rob. And we have an episode for you today. There have been some happenings, some rumblings in the D&D world this week. If you're online at all, and possibly if you're not, you may have heard a little bit about this.
I think it's D&D has finally made it. We've come into our own. We're cool now because of what has happened, sadly.
Right.
That's what it takes to be cool.
If you are a D&D enthusiast online, you are now familiar with the terms viral divorce announcement, blocked elf wife, and professional pigeon cosplayer. Anyway, we're talking, of course, about the Pro Jared fiasco that blew up the internet last week, late last week, Wednesday or Thursday. I was distressingly not online for a lot of this, so I had to catch up to later on.
Pro Jared is a weird-looking person who is
a very average-looking man.
An average-looking man who is a member of the Dice Camera Action stream. One of those streams sponsored by Wizards of the Coast. Chris Perkins DMing. It's okay. It's not bad.
It's fine.
It's fine.
I don't think that it has... Yeah, it's not as popular as Critical Role or The Adventure Zone or
it
even
was specifically, I think, made full of YouTube personalities to ensnare YouTube
right,
youths.
Because Pro Jared was like a gamer before, right? Like a YouTuber. He had over 1 million followers before this happened. But
okay, wait. So what happened?
Yeah. So on Wednesday night, Pro Jared, Nabenauer, I'm guessing on his last name, posted a divorce announcement on Twitter where he announced that he was divorcing his wife, Heidi O'Farrell, who was also a member of the Dice Camera Action crew.
I don't think that's true.
Is that not true? She's not.
That's not true.
I thought she's part of the same
I think
D&D
she was
group.
a guest, but no.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. That robs me of a little bit of joy, but okay, so sorry. So she's a professional artist and elf cosplayer. Hey, I'm getting there.
When you announce a divorce on Twitter, then you're Twitter unmarried. I don't know what sort of legal ramifications that has.
Does the church recognize that as a divorce? Are you divorced in the eyes of God and the law? I don't know.
If you're playing a Starfinder campaign and you're married by the god Triune, the god of AIs and social networks, then I guess you would be divorced as a member of that church. I don't know about other deities.
So this is already weird and embarrassing enough, but the juicy part is that Jared blocked his wife before making this announcement. And so she didn't know that this was happening, and
what a piece of shit.
Felt undermined and said so by going on a massive Twitter rant and revealing that she had no idea he was doing this and that he had been cheating on her with another gamer who was in the Dice Camera Action crew.
Which, this happens. Sometimes players in your games sleep with each other.
It does happen. Hopefully they're not married when they do so.
Yeah. Hopefully it's not
and that's
being
totally
duplicitous and hurting people.
And so this sort of blew up into a hilarious online falling out. Less hilariously, it turns out that Pro Jared had been also soliciting nudes from fans for years on a private Tumblr account, and also sharing nudes of himself. And some of these fans, this is alleged, by the way, claim they were underage when they did this. Anyway,
I think the lesson is there are two good people on YouTube, and their names are Matt Colville and Natalie Wren. Like, I don't think anything else good has come out of YouTube.
Bomber Guy is pretty okay, but yeah, it's a very small community of
Bomber Guy,
people.
Alex Cernayev.
Matt, you have just embarrassed yourself in front of our fans.
I don't know who Bomber Guy is.
H Bomber Guy.
Okay.
I actually don't know his real name. We'll look him up afterwards. Anyway, so it's actually very funny, but also not that funny. He seems like actually kind of a piece of shit. And just because you are a nerd doesn't mean you can get away with like being shitty to people. I feel like a lot of nerds are like, oh, I'm not a jock. I wasn't popular in high school, so I can't be bad, right? I can't be like actually a shitty person. But that's not true. There are lots of very, very shitty nerds, and Pro Jared is, I think, king of the shitty nerds at this particular moment. So if you happen to be somebody with limited internet fame, don't use that to prey on your fans or cheat on your elf wife.
No disrespect to her, but the other person in his stream had the gumption to post on that divorce announcement like, I'm here for you, which I totally respect. I am on her team. Like, that's extremely,
so good. Extremely power move is what
it
that
really
was.
is. It's
really yeah.
Notice I'm divorcing from my wife. Person
I was cheating with. Yeah.
I'm here for you. Yes. Don't. Yeah. Elves can cheat too, I think.
Elves can cheat too.
Yeah. So I mean, I think this is great for D&D. I mean, it's obviously not great, but we've come into our own, that we've had our first big divorce scandal. And if it wouldn't embarrass anyone, like I've had, players involved before. From my game. It happens.
Tensions are high. The dice are rolling. Emotions are heightened. A romance can bloom. Matt, do you think love can bloom on a battlefield?
Yes, just as it can in the fetid pits of the nine hells, or
right.
Clanging hellscape of
so
Acheron.
Yeah, so there's lots of lessons here. Lessons are that nerds do fuck. And they also cheat and are terrible sometimes. So I really wish I hadn't found... look, infidelity isn't that funny, but public divorce announcement, that's pretty funny. Blocking your elf wife, that's pretty funny. I just wish I hadn't found out about all the other stuff where he was a scumbag, because that robs me of the joy of the schadenfreude of Pro Jared being publicly humiliated and... embarrassing himself and being embarrassed by others as he richly deserves. Oh, so as part of this, I believe
Heidi caught the cat, as you've said. So that's right. Good.
Heidi got the cat, and also Jared's subscriber count dropped, I think, to under 200,000, from 1 million or something like that. Last I checked.
D&D has broken that last and highest glass ceiling that a very weird looking white guy can cheat on his wife.
That's right. So yeah, that's our one piece of news.
So
Matt, I have
I
have a couple of things, but yeah, you go ahead. Tell me
sure.
What's up.
Well, I also saw this last week, right while we were talking about stop emailing my elf wife, which was that Elder Scrolls Online, run by Bethesda. I'm trying to say it like an elf name, and it's just Bethesda, Maryland. It confuses
you because it looks like a fantasy name, but it's just a shitty suburb in Maryland.
A billion-dollar company, right, is working on an expansion for Elder Scrolls Online.
Owned by ZeniMax, who...
ZeniMax?
ZeniMax, who Donald Trump sits on the board of.
Oh, wonderful. Everything shitty. It's all connected. Anyway, one of the parts of their expansion, a publisher on the DMs Guild, pointed out, this is by Ben Hesler and Paige Littman, pointed out that their D&D Adventures Guild adventure is basically exactly the same as Elder Scroll Online's Netherlands Netherlands Adventure. So basically this billion-dollar company, some writers there, stole their adventure. Almost word for word.
Yeah, basically word for word. Which, seems, really lazy. But also just catastrophic failure of fact-checking and plagiarism and all sorts of things. So
it's like it's from the very first moment of the adventure to the very end, right? They read almost exactly the same. Like, here's the D&D Adventures League adventure. Quote, "There's nothing like the desert to make people feel small and insignificant. ESO's Netherland Adventure. Nothing beats the desert to make people feel small and unimportant." And it's every sentence is the exact same with, they just made the writing shittier. And it's like, we thought no one would notice.
Wild. Anyway, so that's how you also know that D&D has made it big time, because people are stealing its content to use for massively online multiplayer games.
Well, I guess so. The Elsewhere Adventure is for their spin-off pen and paper stuff, right?
Oh, right. Sorry, yeah.
Right. So, sorry, yeah. They were stealing it for their own role-playing game.
Gotcha.
But it's just crazy. It's like they should have so much money to throw at this.
You'd think so. I mean, undoubtedly, like, a fraction of their profits is more than... I mean, what? D&D sells, like... It's in the, like, tens of millions, right? Like, Bethesda's a billion-dollar company, like, Anyway, very sloppy, very lazy, very shitty of a gigantic video game mega corporation to do this. Shame on you, Bethesda. I would boycott your games, but I have already stopped playing them because you won't make any more single-player Fallouts and Elder Scrolls games. Fuck you, Fallout 76 and Elder Scrolls Online. I don't want to play either of those things. Where is Elder Scrolls 7? Thank you very much. Okay, moving on. We got a little bit of data. I love data. We love data at Dungeon Master of None, and during the dev update last week, shared some information about the top subclasses for Xanathar's Guide to Everything in D&D Beyond. Now,
sure.
A quick caveat: these are just classes that have been created in D&D Beyond, so this doesn't reflect,
right, we have no way of knowing how these were actually played or something.
Right, and some of them may just be test characters, but I still think it's instructive. And they gave us a chart. Wouldn't you know it, the subclass that is most popular by a overwhelming margin is the Hexblade, of course.
This is the Warlock subclass that makes you into a Gish fighter,
right.
Caster plus melee weapon user.
So when we reviewed Xanathar's Guide to Everything way back, I think we pointed out that it, in terms of power creep, it was a problem, but that it was a well-designed class, kind of how we feel about Warlock in general. I am starting to suspect that it in fact vastly overpowers similar... Not vastly. I just think that it... because
the one thing it does that other class, no other thing in the game does, is it allows you to use really a different ability score for your attacks, right? It lets you use charisma instead of strength or dexterity.
Right.
That's the big thing.
So you can do that with druid and cleric in a limited capacity, but you have to cast a spell or use a spell slot or something like that. This just makes it
all the time
inherent. Yeah. So it's a really great sorcerer dip. It's a great paladin dip. It's a great just general class if you want to go all in on charisma or something like that.
The thing is, it's also a first level ability, right? It's a really good thing that you only need one level of this class for. Right.
So, upon reflection, and I had been thinking about this before I saw these numbers, but I actually, I think it's great allowing players to use one stat for another. That's fun. It allows for different types of characters, and it doesn't necessarily have to be overpowered, but it is definitely something that should not exist on only a single subclass in the Xanathar's Guide to Everything.
Right. It's just so much better than all the other options if you want to be a fighter caster, right? It's the best option. Yeah. It's way better than Eldritch Knight and all that stuff do this.
It also is one of the few classes that's worth multi-classing into or out of. Most of the time, that's not like a great use of your time, but either taking a couple level of Paladin or taking a couple levels of Hexblade and then going to Paladin is actually a great choice, which again, by itself, not a problem, but it is, I think, out of balance with much of the rest of the game. So that's a bit of an issue. Other interesting things... Go ahead, Matt.
Oh, I would just say, I mean, if you got rid of the charisma to hit and damage for all attacks from the Hexblade, it would, I think, be in line with every other subclass. You'd have to give it something else, but if you gave it something else that wasn't that, yeah, it would not be that popular.
Yeah.
It's a mechanical... I mean, it's a cool idea for a class, right?
Right.
The warlock with a cursed artifact that is their link to their patron is perfect, especially if that artifact is a weapon. It's just, that mechanically is... I think it's... You can explain the imbalance 100% by the mechanical power of the class.
Right.
Not its coolness.
Which is also annoying. The Hexblade is also a prime candidate for the edgy, grim, dark player to lean into, which is not my favorite. But anyway, Hexblade. Other interesting things from this chart. Next most popular with 6% is Divine Soul, which I agree with. I think Divine Soul, as I talked about in our earlier review, is wonderful. It adds options, which is, the main thing for me when it comes to choosing a class. A lot of great options, a lot of potential for interesting spells and uses of them. So that's pretty cool. And then Shadow Magic.
I wish they called it the Favored Soul, but that's
I
my
also
only
wish
critique.
they had called it Favored Soul. That's a Wizards branded name and property. I do not understand why they needed to change it from Favored Soul to Divine Soul. That does not make sense to me. Most of the rest of these have 4% or less, and I'm not going to go through all of them, but the other popular one is the Sorcerer with the Shadow Magic option, which I thought was kind of Yeah.
People love Shadow Magic.
People do love Shadow Magic.
Yeah, let's move on to the next topic. What else did you want to talk about?
Those are my main pieces of news. I feel like I'm forgetting something, but I don't remember what it was.
Well, we're not going to talk about any particular spoilers, but we're coming to the close of GOT season.
The Game of Thrones is at last coming to an end. All of the pieces are moving into place.
There was a hilarious rumor where one of the elderly actors who had worked on Game of Thrones said, "Oh yeah, George R. R. Martin's finished his books. I think he told me that." And everyone was like, "What?" And everyone's like, "No, this is impossible." And of course, it was impossible.
It was impossible.
He's never going to finish his
George
books.
R. R. Martin came out and said, "No, I have not finished those books."
It's going to be all up to Brandon Sanderson once again.
As I have discussed with Matt, Brandon Sanderson has said he will not do it, so they'll have to find somebody else. They'll have to find somebody to finish the books.
Why won't he do it?
He said he won't. He said,
where's so much money?
Don't quote me, but I believe that he said that he could not write the sex and violence authentically. I'm not sure if those were exactly his words, but I believe he said that even if he were asked, he wouldn't do it. And I'm pretty sure George R. R. Martin said, "No, I will not ask. If I die, these die with me."
Is old BS? Is he a Mormon?
He's a Mormon. Brandon Sanderson is a LDS. He even teaches he teaches creative writing at BYU, I believe.
Has anyone told him that Aegon the Conqueror had 2 literal sister wives? They were his sisters and wives? I know he's not FLDS. That's still funny.
Still funny. Anyway, so we're reaching the end of the Game of Thrones. Let's just say that most people are varying degrees of unsatisfied, and we are hoping for George R. R. Martin to finish the books because the show is not delivering, but I don't think that he will. But we're not going to talk about too many spoilery things today, though.
Well, what are we going to talk about?
Mild spoilers for season 8, episode 5. We will talk about I think we'll talk about the season or the show as a whole next week. We will discuss. We'll have a Game of Thrones themed episode. But yeah, I wanted to talk about dragons.
Ooh.
And this in and of itself is probably
what is this, Dragon Master of None?
Not a spoiler, but there is a brief spoilers for the next couple minutes if you have not seen this episode yet. But there is a scene where Daenerys Targaryen atop her one remaining dragon, who is Drogon
the dragon. It's a good name.
It's a good name.
Of course. It's not confusing.
Like Harse the horse.
Hello. I am Human Feeter.
Atop of Drogon, Daenerys finally learns how to not be an absolute moron with her fire-breathing lizard and destroys a entire fleet and breaks down the walls of King's Landing, and later has a very abrupt dark side turn, and then sets the entire city aflame. Which wait
a second. I the one thing that bugged me most about that was not the human suffering and millions of people dying, but I was like,
sure,
this city is supposed to be made of wood. Why is it so stone? Why did it get all stony and nice? King's Landing's a slum. It's a shitty town. Anyway, that bugged me the entire episode. Everything was made of stone.
Could make the CGI set match the city of Dubrovnik where they were filming, and they wanted it to look pretty and nice and not like a slum because they spent a lot of money on location scouting, Matt.
Yeah.
You're not wrong. They should have made
King's Landing is a wooden city. There are very few stone structures.
They should have made it look more shitty. Which is, by the way, why it's so alarming, right, when they find out that there's all that wildfire under the city, right? Because, I mean, in the books, it's like very like whatever, but it's not like, I don't know, like mini nukes, like C4 that's going to blow up everything. It's just going to like burn the city down because it's made of wood. Anyway.
Yeah. So we were talking about Drogons.
We're talking about Drogons. Well, it made me think about dragons, right? So I had a number of thoughts. The first thought I had was, what is the cooldown on that dragon's fire breath? Because it does not seem like it has one, and it's just able to continually breathe fire ad infinitum.
There's no 1d4 round recharge on this thing.
And I'm aware that it's magic, but maybe there should be some sort of like internal logic to how much fire it can breathe, since it appears to be coming from somewhere inside of it. But anyway, that's not important. That was the first thought I had. The second thought I had was, is a dragon, is it like a dumb flying lizard that can be taken down by a horny pirate with a couple of crossbows? Or is it like,
it's incredibly... a scorpion, or a ballista?
Scorpion.
Is it crossbow?
Like, a super weapon that, completely changes the fundamental function of warfare.
This is an interesting question, because I think what a lot of people forget is that the dragons in Game of Thrones are very different than the dragons depicted in most fantasy and in the basic Dungeons and Dragons game, right? Dungeons and Dragons are incredibly intelligent, sophisticated, magical creatures that are masters of spells and are very, very smart and, much smarter than humans. And the dragons in Game of Thrones are like really smart horses, I think.
Yeah, I mean, they have some above average intelligence and some sort of like mystical connection to the Targaryens, but other than that, they're just
they're animals.
Dangerous lizards.
Yes.
Actually, we could get into the difference between dragons and wyverns and worms if you were a huge...
Lindworms, drakes,
dragon
half-dragons.
But yeah, the dragons in Game of Thrones are closer to a drake or a wyvern or something than an actual dragon, which, as we had pointed out, are intelligent creatures, spellcasters, very powerful. But it did make me think about, like, how would it change warfare? And also then it made me think about, how do you design a good dragon encounter in Dungeons and Dragons, right? What can we learn from the very exciting and also, sort of inconsistent use of dragons in the Game of Thrones show, right? They're either, as everything in the show, they completely serve the plot and have no internal consistency whatsoever. So sometimes they're, massively powerful, unstoppable weapons who just dodge all the scorpion bolts, and sometimes they're big dumb lizards that get shot twice and fall into the ocean.
Okay, let's do that. And I'll do you one better, and then at the end, let's see if we can design a good one or two good dragon encounters that you can steal for your game.
Great. So here's the thing. So I have two. So I don't like to use dragons very often in my games, but I do like to have a dragon encounter or two. It's not a good D&D campaign unless you're encountering a dragon, as long as your setting has dragons, right?
Right.
They're great. They're great villains. They're probably some of the best designed monsters in the monster manual. A lot of fun. Players love it. So I've got two criteria for dragons.
Right. You can do almost anything with a dragon. They're mechanically interesting enough. You can put them in, and thematically interesting enough in all different kinds of encounters.
So if you're going to fight a dragon, you're going to fight a red dragon, you're going to fight a black dragon, you're going to fight a, blue dragon or whatever. Like a real, chromatic type dragon. I feel like there's only two ways to really capture the menace and power and impressiveness of those creatures, because you'll read, this is something I read a lot when I'm gathering information for our, unwanted advice segments, is people finding out that their dragons are not standing up to their parties. They're getting walloped. Yeah. So even if they're, CR appropriate, you want to do a couple things to make sure that your dragons get the full menace, right? Either they should be encountered in their lair. A dragon outside of their lair is not as impressive and also a missed opportunity. Or they should encounter the dragon out in the open, and the dragon should not land and engage them, right? The dragon should use the fact that it is a dragon and can fly to its advantage and strafe them with fire and cast spells and do flyby attack and things like that. But if you just have your dragon stand there and get walloped by 6 adventurers, then you are missing out on the best use of your dragon.
And this is an important lesson for all intelligent monsters, right? Especially ones that are supposed to be fearsome and ancient, right? Dragons can be very, very old. And, unless this is a particular sort of subversion of that trope, this is probably not the first time some foolish adventurers have tried to attack this dragon. So
dragons are arrogant.
A trick or two.
Dragons are arrogant, and this is how you make it so that they are beatable, right? Because if they are truly incredibly intelligent as you are and have all the right information, then they really shouldn't lose to your adventurers. But they're arrogant. They don't see mortals as a threat, so this maybe makes them less careful than they might otherwise be. It inclines them to take risks that they shouldn't otherwise. So that's your angle for making the dragon vulnerable, but they are smart. They shouldn't charge into, a readied ambush, and they shouldn't, keep doing the same thing if it isn't working, right? They should go after soft targets, right? Or they should use their abilities to the full extent that they can be used, right? They should cast their spells. They should use their fire breath whenever it's up and up. They might fly away and regenerate or rest rather than, fight to the death unless they're protecting their horde or something like that.
Yeah. They might, as Rob says, go for a soft target, get them down, and as they're intelligent, if they're losing a fight, say, all right, you've beaten me. However, I'm going to breathe flame on your unconscious cleric if you don't back away.
Right. Remember, they are intelligent. They can speak many languages. They can negotiate, and they might. This is a great thing to do with, if you're doing traditional D&D, metallic dragons, right? There's still reason to fight them, though they're technically good. And, maybe they end up on the wrong side or a different side, and your players fight them, but then need to negotiate, right? Or fight them to a standstill and can find some way to work out a compromise.
I always think a good thing you can add to make your dragon encounters more interesting is dragons, if it's a particularly ancient and clever verm, have probably collected some kinds of followers, right? It could be as simple as a tribe of kobolds they've hoodwinked into worshiping them as a god, or it could be, a network, an entire family of sorcerers, right? That are actually the dragon's descendants that get their magical powers from the dragon's blood, but in return serve the dragon and its inns.
Right, that's a great one because it's already built into the game with Draconic Disciple and Draconic Heritage for sorcerers. So your dragon has sired a line of sorcerers that now serve the dragon. And you can have it both ways. I love the lair full of especially powerful kobolds, right? They've been granted gifts by or evolved to be stronger by their proximity to a powerful dragon. But also fun is a dragon that goes around in human form. They're haughty and arrogant nobles who are trying to enact some scheme in a city. You don't know they're a dragon, but that's a great way to plant them as a villain early on if you want to have a dragon be one of your big bads or a big bad.
Rules is written, only metallic dragons get this shapeshift thing, but I always give it to every dragon. Right. Every dragon can turn into a humanoid creature.
Yeah.
What's some other dragon topics you want to talk about? What do dragons want?
Right. So this is interesting. Obviously, the traditional answer to this is that dragons want to hoard wealth, right? That's what they do. They acquire gold and other valuable things, and then they pile it into a big mountain of shinies in their cave somewhere, and
this myth comes to us from dumb as all hell Northern Europeans who didn't have a lot of imagination.
They were very boring people, and so I think this is very, very cold, dark, bored people.
What does this dragon want? Well, he wants to steal our gold.
Steal our gold! Take our cows! So I think you can usually do better for dragons, right? I think that dragons have schemes, right? They have desires and interests just as any intelligent creature does. Like I said, I like that. I like to imagine many of them go about as humanoids and, enact long-term schemes either to, exact vengeance on a foe or gain power for themselves or possibly even act as a ruler or person of consequence. Maybe they like living among mortals from time to time.
Right. One of my favorite things to do with dragons is they want power and they want to improve their status, but only versus other dragons, right? And that gives you a lot of rules to look like, right? So a dragon might be powerful in the eyes of other dragons, but it doesn't appear so in the sort of mortal realm, right? You decide that dragons have a different measure of who gets to be king dragon.
Dragons are great. Again, all intelligent creatures are great to sort of explore this with, but I would encourage you to just think about, what might they want and be creative with it. Because, if you're immortal and ancient and a giant lizard, you want different things than a human might. So what does an intelligent creature desire? And there are lots of things you can do with that. You can give them sort of like ancient and inscrutable motives. A conflict with another dragon is always fun and opens up a lot of just really interesting opportunities for the players and for the game.
One of my favorite things, and this is not something I came up with, this is from the Pathfinder Galarian setting, is the island nation of Hermia. And Hermia is ruled by a gold dragon in the open, Minkare. And the idea behind this is this gold dragon is trying to build a perfect utopian society full of like genetic super people, and they have this dragon is supposedly a good dragon, rules with an iron fist, and the island has a very strict caste system to sort of build and this dragon seems like it's trying to, hey, I've been watching these mortals forever and they're always trying to, declare war and stuff on each other, so I'm going to build my own perfect society. Obviously, anyone reading anywhere below the surface is like, ooh, this place is probably actually evil. And yeah, it makes for, this dragon, Minkare, or this island nation of Hermea, right, make for great villains in the game, right? A good dragon trying to impose their scheme on mortals.
Another great example from Eberron is the dragons there are mostly withdrawn from society and obsessed with the draconic prophecy, right? They're mostly interested in trying to decipher this grand system of runes and dragon marks to try to understand the past and the future and the present, right? They're ancient, they're knowledgeable. They're scholars. They have their own desires. They work in, over eons, and this makes them great antagonists. It makes them great big bads. It also makes them good allies. It works really well. So feel free to get creative with dragons. I don't think that a horde is fun because then your players get to have a bunch of stuff, but you can accomplish that in lots of different ways, right? You don't have to have them literally just acquiring magic items and gold.
I mean, the other way to go with this is to go straight with Game of Thrones' idea, right? In Game of Thrones, there are certain people, the albino Targaryens, that can control dragons or have a special relationship with them, right?
Right.
You can do this in D&D. There's an item for it, the Orbs of Dragonkind, right? Is there a rich, noble group or a powerful group that controls one of the Orbs of Dragonkinds? Well, now they have their own weapon of mass destruction. Lets them dominate and control a dragon. So a dragon serving a human or mortal interest.
Right. This is a great one, too, is, I believe...
In the Dungeons & Dragons movie? This is part of the plot, yes.
I decided to avoid mentioning the Orbs of Dragonkind in the Dungeons & Dragons movie. Don't worry. I didn't forget, Matt.
We're gonna have to watch that for
gosh, yeah. We did this for Mazes and Monsters. We should do it for the Dungeons & Dragons
Why
movie.
not?
Why not?
I can think of many reasons why not. 1, it's a bad movie. 2, it's really boring. 3, it makes us angry.
I was thinking of in the World of Warcraft world that the orcs gain control of the red dragon flight by capturing the mother dragon or her daughters.
I think they get all the eggs or something.
The eggs or something. Eggs is a great one. Is where I'm going with this, right? Like, someone steals a dragon's eggs. Like, that's just a classic plot. You can help the dragon.
You can't control a dragon flight without stealing a few eggs.
It's a great plot. You can either get the eggs back and have a dragon friend, or you can keep the eggs for yourself and make a lot of money or power. Dragon eggs, classic tool. That can be if you're looking for a motivation for your dragon. Their eggs have been stolen. That's a great way to give them a reason to be there, and it's not too complicated.
One of my last favorite ways to use dragons is to completely subvert these expectations and have your players encounter a powerless or mostly powerless dragon. The adventure, The Sunless Citadel, does this quite well, and something I've stolen for my games. Your players find a group of not very powerful creatures or people. Maybe kobolds are good, or goblins, right? And they have a very tiny wormling, a small dragon that is not very powerful, and they have it as a cage, and it's maybe their mascot, or it's maybe their god. And but the dragon itself, right, a very intelligent creature, is very unhappy and would like to be out of this situation, but it can't because it's stuck and surrounded by 200 kobolds, and it can't get away.
Yeah. That's a good one, too. Yeah.
I think the way I used it is some kobolds had captured a white dragon, but they were the tribe of the kobolds was the soot scales, so they covered the dragon in coal dust, so it would look like their scales, and made it their god, and it was very unhappy and was more than glad to be rescued by the player characters.
So let's design a couple of quick encounters, Matt.
Sure, let's do it.
To make
Dragon time.
Dragon time. So I've got one. This is my favorite, and I used this a couple times in a couple different campaigns. But this is actually maybe a good pick for an unintelligent dragon or a very angry one, right? And it's the attack while traveling. So I'm not gonna look, but I'm pretty sure there are some sufficiently terrifying drakes that can breathe fire, which would be a great pick for this. Or just any red dragon anywhere along the line. But your players are going somewhere, they set up camp, and suddenly they are surprised by a strafing attack by a dragon, right? And they have to rally and try to either drive it off or defeat it while it swoops down from the sky, stays as far away from them as possible, and uses its spells and fire breath to as much effect as possible.
And then this is always a fun thing, right? With players dealing with a foe that is, especially if they're low levels, right, far outclasses them in terms of the way it can move in many dimensions. What would a dragon like this want? Why would a dragon be doing this?
Well, this would be a great time to use the egg thing, right? The dragon has either been tricked into thinking that the players have stolen his egg, or somebody they're traveling with or somebody they have met has sort of like snuck the egg into a wagon or a saddlebag or something like that, and the dragon has come looking for their wayward offspring. I think I used this specifically, actually, in a campaign.
This is perfect, especially if you wanted to throw down a metallic dragon, right?
Right. This would be a great opportunity to bring in a silver or gold dragon that may someday become an ally, but does not like the players to begin with. Yeah.
Right. And then the players, can defend themselves, or, players with the knowledge of these things could say, hey, that dragon's scales are shiny. It's actually good. Right, because we have a color-based morality in this.
That's right. Well, it's a great opportunity for players to use either their in-game or out-of-game knowledge and be like, oh, wait, hang on. That's a metallic dragon. It shouldn't just be attacking us. Also, it shouldn't just be attacking us for no reason. Something is wrong here, right? This is an opportunity to reward critical thinking in your players, right? So they'll say, what's wrong? Why are we being attacked? Can we negotiate? Have we been tricked, right? And then maybe they find the dragon egg and stop themselves from being roasted alive by the angry dragon. Yeah.
Right. And I think this is a fun way you can do this is to maybe play a little fast and loose with the combat rules, right? The first encounter is the dragon is, 100 feet away. They're traveling down a forest road, and a line of fire sort of cuts through their marching order, and they have to dodge to either side and figure out how to get through the fire and stuff, and they have several rounds to react, and then the dragon comes back, and then you put a line of fire down and have players react and sort of figure out these things, or you can, this works well in a city as well, where the city guards are now angry at the players for bringing a dragon into town, or especially at the open sea, right? With
this is especially terrifying on a boat, right? Your players are going to want to figure this out pretty quickly, or their vessel will become engulfed in flames and sink. So yeah.
It's also a good point where I always make clear to my players that I do not follow the color-based morality scheme Dungeons and Dragons gives us with different types of dragons, right?
Right. I tend to play all of my dragons as equally alien, right? They may be good or evil, but their motives and desires are beyond human ken, right? They
it's not to TV tropes you, but they have an orange-blue morality system, right?
right. And you can do this any way you want, but I actually generally hate all orcs are lawful evil, and goblins are chaotic evil, and blah, blah, blah. Unless it's like demons or something, which literally come from like the plane of evil. I really hate it when any monster is like, all monsters are this morality. And I feel that especially with dragons, so I tend to play them as very intelligent, powerful creatures that have desires that, a kind of thing that lives basically forever would have, and that makes them terrifying foes and powerful allies, but very difficult to deal with no matter what.
Well, Rob, I couldn't get enough. So I love your traveling encounter idea. I think this is a smart way to play it, especially with a stolen egg or a stolen wormling or something like that. And it can easily turn into a quest for the players.
Oh, that would be fun. They have a wormling, but they don't recognize what it is, right? Like maybe it's...
it's using its change shape ability, and it looks like a baby goat or something.
Yeah,
right?
it looks like a goat, or
an adorable baby goat. And the player that was nice to that baby goat, right? Reward your players that are nice to animals. It's like, you never know when it's going to be a dragon in disguise.
Going to be a baby dragon. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love that even better than the egg. It's
that's even better than the egg.
Right. It's a sort of bandit type joins them and like, oh, here, it's just me and my goat. I totally acquired this goat by legal means. Yes. And your players might be like, stealing a goat, that's no big deal. But no, it's very big.
It's not a goat.
All right. So this weekend, Rob, because I just can't get enough of that got. is I read George R. R. Martin's Fire and Blood, a a actual fake history of the Game of Thrones thing. And one of the things that details is the Dance of Dragons, which is a Targaryen civil war, again, loosely inspired by English history during like the 100 Years' War and stuff like that. Anyway, it's really long and boring, but there are dragons on both sides with lots of dragon fights and dragon poisonings and dragon stealings. But one thing that stood out to me that's inspiring my encounter is there's a dragon named Sheep Stealer. And one lucky peasant girl who probably had some Targaryen blood in this history got away with a dragon and was like, fuck this civil war, I'm going to go live with my dragon and be a dragon person, which is, I think, a great decision.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, wouldn't you do the same, right? You can just go ride your dragon all day and that kind of stuff. So I got to think of what's a good plot hook for a dragon that just wants to be left alone. So I think my encounter would be the players come upon a peasant village. All the peasants can talk about is this dragon that they call Sheep Stealer. And the dragon probably has a much cooler, more draconic name. But the dragon just, never kills anyone. It takes a couple sheep every year. And the reason it does this is because it's very lazy and doesn't want to hunt for more difficult prey, because it devotes all its time to some ancient arcane mystery, studying some artifact or magical ritual that is super cool and important and could lead to furthering your plot. However, the peasants or the villagers are really tired of these sheep being disappeared, and they really want to enlist the players into some scheme to hoodwink this dragon, drive it off, kill it. They're trying to poison sheep or something like that, and that will make for an interesting encounter, because your players could either defeat this dragon, negotiate with it, and the dragon's got a lot of magical secrets up its butt, because it's not interested in hunting. It just wants to be left alone and to research things.
This reminds me of the classic 90s dragon movie,
Dragonheart?
Dragonheart, where a disillusioned knight played by Dennis Quaid teams up with the last dragon voiced by Sean Connery.
Sean Connery. It's not a dragon.
And they what they decide, sorry, saying this out loud,
take anal bum covers.
What they decide to do is bilk villagers out of gold by Dennis Quaid like pretending to like slay Sean Connery the dragon for them.
Which is the worst use of a dragon, but it's great.
It's just like so. Sorry, I loved that movie. I still love that movie, but as a kid, I watched it so much, and like describing it out loud, I'm like, wait, if you had a dragon, that's the best way you can think of to make money? Anyway. But yeah, think about a dragon who doesn't want to do dragon things, right? A dragon who's like, I'm tired of all the grand dragon politics. I just want to be left alone. Maybe I've got a friend or something like that. But, it's a dragon that legitimately wants to be solitary, doesn't want to bother anybody, and how like that might be a problem or how that might interact with your world. Yeah.
Oh, yes. Dragonheart. It's so good.
So good.
Really bad special effects, really bad voice work.
Truly just awful from top to bottom.
Everyone's doing their worst job in that movie.
It has a very young oh god, what the hell? He's the werewolf in Harry Potter. What's his name?
I have no idea. The guy who's the werewolf in Harry Potter.
The guy is very young as a sniveling a Remus Lupin. Sniveling evil king.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, watch Dragonheart. Don't watch the D&D movie. Do watch Dragonheart.
Never pass up an opportunity to spend an hour and a half with the Quaid.
Quaid at his best.
All right, so we've got 2 dragon encounters. Any final dragon thoughts?
Like many things that I think are done to death, I don't love dragons, but they are interesting they're just like such classic like villains and fantasy tropes. I feel like every fantasy world should have some sort of like wink or nod to dragons. You know, it just feels like something that should belong. So I like to think about them. I like to think about how they might be involved. And I also like to think about them burning down King's Landing sometimes.
Okay, well, here's a question then. In the homebrew world you're building, the Darien scheme, or in Thunder on the Steppe, a homebrew world you've built already, how have you used dragons in your world building?
I haven't decided on where they will be in Darien's scheme. They'll be there, but they will be much smaller role. In Thunder on the Steppe, they were significant because I had a whole race of void dragons that inhabited the moon. The moon that were going to cross during the incredibly rare atmospheric joining event because they needed to be able to fly between the two planets, and they were going to invade and consume the entire world with their awful voidness. They were more of the dumb, evil dragon types. They were not hyper-intelligent monsters in Thunder on the Steppe. But that was fun. I liked having them. That's a
fun twist to make dragons your basically Cthulhu monster, or basically you flipped from Dragon Riders of Pern. The dragons took on the role of the thread.
Right. I really liked dragons for that because it was supposed to be it was a mount-based campaign, right, that took place in a lot of open areas, but actually didn't end up doing too many dragon encounters in that area, but it was good because it was a high power, very mobile campaign, and which is great for dragons, you know?
Yeah. I mean, in Wild Space, my dragons are, they have organized themselves into an interstellar empire. They leave the day-to-day managing of it to their dragon-blooded descendants and various dragon-ish races. You got your Dragonborn, you've got your kobolds, right? You got your lizard folk that are all have their role in the armies of... I forgot what I was going to call this dragon empire, but for young dragons, right, it is their job to go out into the cosmos and, conquer a planet and bring it into the empire, right? That's how they gain the highest tier by doing that. So it gives a good hook for a dragon-based, faction, but also for players to encounter basically. A dragon in the wild, doing typical dragon things.
I increasingly think, as we're talking about this, that if you're going to include dragons, you're going to think about how do they really fit, and they're going to be intelligent. I think they should see themselves as probably rightful rulers of mortal races. I think dragons should very often be kings or rulers or emperors, possibly few in number, but of their own, little fiefdoms or something like that. I think that's probably the most interesting way to set them up. And they're not necessarily inherently evil, but they, of course, because they are better, see themselves as better than mortals and better equipped to rule and make decisions for them.
The one thing that 4th edition really leaned into heavily that I sort of disliked, and a listener can write in and correct me and tell me why I'm wrong, is I find the dragon gods, Tiamat and Bahamut, all your things stolen from Sumerian mythology, to be less interesting than dragons themselves. I don't need dragon gods. Dragons are already gods to mortals, right?
Right.
I don't care what their gods think or what their religion is that much. I don't like dragons motivated by religion or by gods.
I agree. I'm not a huge fan of the dragon gods, yeah.
I mean, I think they might have their place as, like, the progenitor dragons, right? They were the first dragons in the world, and, maybe they slumber somewhere because they're incredibly ancient, but I don't care for them as deities that the player character... Because if I put a god in my campaign, right, then a player can have it as their patron or their god for their cleric character, and I don't want any clerics of Bahamut.
Yeah,
your character's not a dragon, unless he's a dragonborn.
Right.
And then,
the ancient primordial dragon, that's pretty cool. I'm into that. But yeah, and they could be powerful as gods, but dragon gods, That's not a faith. dragons aren't a faith. Dragons are just,
Dragons are
dragons.
Cool.
Dragons are cool.
I mean, you should, never not let your players get a dragon
Actually,
as a friend.
that would be an extremely cool, cleric, belief is they're just a dragon fanboy.
Yeah.
And they just, they think dragons are really fucking cool and they want to be one, and that's where they draw their powers from. That would be pretty good.
Yeah, that would be great.
But
and then they meet actual
god,
people who are sorcerers who have dragons as grandparents, and they all,
you're
like, no, you're not real.
You may want to cut this, but it would be like a weeaboo getting power from they would gain cleric katana powers from believing so strongly in how cool Japan is. Anyway,
all right,
we're all done here.
We're done here. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks for listening. Stay tuned next week for a Game of Thrones themed episode where we share our hottest takes on the finale and the show as a whole, and why you should not base your campaign on it.
And do you have questions for us or comments you want to add on our dragon discussion? Send us an email at dmofnone@gmail.com or, Rob, or...
Oh, very exciting.
Call us at RPG20D Hoax. That's 774-203-4629, the Dungeon Master Emergency Hotline. Give us a call, keep your messages brief, and we will answer them on the air.
All right.
What's that number again, Rob?
I have no idea.
It's 774-203-4629. Thanks for listening, and are you ready for our D4 and after, Rob?
Oh, yeah, sorry. I forgot about the D4.
All right, here, I've got one.
Okay, do it.
All right, that's a 3, Rob. Just for confirm, we've had so much talk about not fudging dice, so there you can see.
Matt has proven to me that as a 3.
All right. My original one was things in a giant's bag, but I feel like we gotta do a dragon one. So what are your top 3 favorite dragons from fiction or mythology?
Great, I love this. My top 3 favorite dragons.
Give me number 3.
Number 3 is, I'm gonna go with, off the top of my head, I'm actually gonna go with Tiamat herself from Sumerian mythology. The Tiamat
Okay, why is she cooler than the one in D&D?
Because in Sumerian mythology, she's weird and consuming and not. I gotta be honest. I don't know. I'm so bored by Tiamat in D&D. I don't know anything about what she's like in the game. So
she's
maybe
the goddess of chromatic dragons.
Yeah, whatever. I don't care. Tiamat in Sumerian mythology is just an ancient, evil, consuming thing. Number 2,
conqueror worm. No, we gotta alternate, Rob. You gotta give me a chance.
Sorry.
I'm gonna go with and this way I can steal your things. I'm gonna go with my favorite dragon from Lord of the Rings, Glamrung. Am I saying that right? Glaurung. He doesn't have wings, and he's just big and fast, and
scary.
He gets really tired. I think dragons, after they burn through a city or something, should get really sleepy. I think that's a good idea and a good trope. Good for dragons that are at the head of armies, right?
Yeah, I like that. I'm also going to pick one from Lord of the Rings for number 2. I'm going to pick Encagalong the Black. I actually can't remember a whole lot about what he did in Lord of the Rings, but I love the name.
Yeah.
Love the name.
You can pick one just terrifying. With the... Yeah.
Yeah. I think Tolkien had
Baelor on the Dread, Encagalon the Black.
Gift for naming things, and I loved Encagalon the Black.
Show how fucking stupid I am. I'm gonna go with the dragon that Sparrowhawk Geb encounters in Ursi. I don't remember its name. I don't care to look it up, but it definitely gives that sort of dragon. Wise. You gotta
It's that wise dragon. Yeah,
outwit this dragon in a game of riddles.
Good pick. All right, you're gonna love this. We're gonna get hate mail. My number 1 dragon.
What's your number 1 dragon?
It's Falkor from The Neverending Story. Number 1 best boy. Number 1 best dog dragon boy. Yeah.
He's beautiful. I like his little pearly belly. I cried when he died.
Yep.
I'm crying right now thinking about him dead.
Just makes you sad.
My number one dragon, I'm gonna pick. All right, I really pissed people off. I picked Dragon Army from Ender's Game. No, that's not a real dragon.
Bold.
You can't beat the best, right? You can't beat the goat, the first and the greatest, the unnamed dragon from the end of Beowulf.
Ah, yes. Uh-huh.
If you want a dragon that will,
big fucking scary dragon,
it has no other
everything.
So I think the end of this episode is ignore all the nuance we said and just have a big fucking scary dragon that your players fight. Why is it there? I don't know. Just
fucking know it's a dragon.
Just fight it. It's cool.
Feel free to ignore everything that we said and be like, hey, here's a big dragon.
Beowulf did it. Yeah. Fight it. It will probably kill one of you, right?
Yeah, that's right.
With its hot blood.
That one. Ooh, yeah, that one is a pretty menacing and terrifying foe for Beowulf. Yeah, a fitting end for a hero. Yeah, that's a good one.
All right,
good dragon.
Kill your players with a dragon. I think that's all we got.
Keep rolling them dice.